Okay. So I hope everyone can see the right slide, which should be the beginning of my presentation. So I will be talking about how we use Rasa, but I also wanted to lay out a bit of our journey from um, just, I guess, building a chatbot. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but how we went from that to actually expanding our capabilities into a platform that's powered by natural language processing. So my name's Nikhil. I work at Autodesk as a technical product manager. Um, I am part of a data science team. And this is kind of the problem landscape that we saw in 2017, 2018. A lot of cases, as you can see, 1 million cases a year and growing. The resolution times weren't great for our customers. Um, Agents themselves had to access a lot of systems to help resolve cases. And there was a cost obviously associated with it. So as you can see, customers were losing time, duplicate cases were being created, and agents were being swamped. So that's the problem that we were trying to address. But at the time, I mean, these are the alternative solutions that existed. So you had decision trees, which are good for issue triaging, but the structure of a decision tree is often representative of the organization structure, and that's not something that customers should be aware of, right? Then you have help content, which covers a lot of different problems, and it's often like the go-to solution, but it's also dependent on search for discovery. You have human help, and human help is often like the last line of defense. It will get you to the right answer, but it can be costly in terms of time, effort. And you also have, like, we also have forums or community where other users can help each other. But there is work needed to like grow a community, develop it into the right platform. So specifically, I think I wanted to talk a bit about the decision tree. I found this excellent diagram online about, on an abstract level, what any decision tree looks like. So you have a dissatisfied customer, and your end goal is to end with a satisfied customer. Often it goes through one of these iterations. And as you can imagine, not every customer who visits a decision tree ends up being satisfied. So the question is, like, on an average, are you ending up with satisfied customers or with dissatisfied customers? I picked one specific example to highlight another issue there. So this is Robinhood support. I don't know if everyone's aware of what is going on with the US markets, but Robinhood has been under some scrutiny. And the restrictions option included here was not something that they always had. So decision trees also need to react to any increases or spikes in volume. And that's not sustainable, right? Currently, let's say you have 10 different options in the dropdown. You can't keep on adding a new option every time a new issue comes up. So that, I think, is some of the like limitations with the existing help solutions available. So what did we come up with as a solution? For Autodesk customers, the Autodesk Virtual Agent, that's the product I work on, is a customer service option that provides a blend of digital and human support across different Autodesk help channels. And like I mentioned earlier, our initial goals were to reduce customer effort, provide instant access to products and services, and scale support itself. So what does it look like? So back when we launched, this is what we call Classic Ava. So the Classic is basically a moniker for the architecture. It's not something that the customer needs to know or understand about. But it was a single web page, standalone application. We were focused on providing easy access to automated transactional use cases. And those are the ones that you can see highlighted over here. You could download products, you could get an activation code. All of these were essentially improvements and efficiencies that were surfaced to customers through the chatbot. On a high level, we had a recognition capability and decision making based on that, and the ability to have a bit of a conversation with our customers. And all of these, as you can see, were built using IBM Watson or through custom engineering work. We also had a beta use case that aimed to provide voice and video support. It's not something that we invest our effort in now, but that was another thing that we had tried with the hope of trying to like solve that problem of reducing customer effort. So Ava had an encouraging start. I have some metrics from 2018 that you can look at. I think anyone who looks at this chart would have a question about the spike in April, and that's because we have like seasonal product launches, and the April-May period is called the global launch period when a lot of our like Autodesk products are released. So as you can expect, there are more customers coming to us either for downloads or experiencing issues with those. And then we had some excellent qualitative feedback. So on the right, you can see a tweet from 2018 where someone had a good experience with Ava. But we also had bad experiences, and they were either visible through social media or they were visible through the data that we could look at. So I wanted to highlight some of the research that was carried out, and then I'll talk a bit about how we moved from this architecture and solution to what we have right now. So specific to virtual agents, these are the three main points. I think the slides will be shared later, so you can go through them in depth. But the main points that stood out to us were the need for being context aware, so reaching customers where they are already facing issues, providing solutions and not just instructions, and a combination of like the avatar and the chat, which was leading to a positive experience. The reason I talked earlier about the decision tree was some research that we had also done comparing both of those approaches. And again, I think there are a lot of different points mentioned here, but the one thing that stood out to us was that a conversational interface suggested a more friendly, comfortable engagement. And the power of like free-form text entry was really transformative. So it was perceived as a direct and efficient way to ask specific questions. And as a data science team, we were uniquely poised to take better advantage of that. So our redesign goals were aligned with some customer effort goals within the company, specifically focused around these areas. And as a data science team, like I mentioned, our goal was also to allow customers to ask a question in their own words. We considered that to be natural for customers. We wanted to improve routing efficiency within Autodesk using natural language processing. And ultimately, we wanted to increase understanding of customer intent from the collected data itself. So then we come to the V2 of the application, which is what you would see right now if you went to ava.autodesk.com. So the ideal state was to reach customers where they're experiencing issues. We wanted to build a platform that's powered by a set of machine learning capabilities that are run on natural language processing algorithms and APIs. And we wanted to create the platform that would be independent of the interface. So not only do we want to support Ava, which is the chatbot, but we also want to make the capabilities available in different help interfaces across Autodesk. The last goal, I mean, it's not directly related to, I guess, the topic at hand, but it's an important one. And that is, I think, related to learning from conversation. So how do we increase observability in a chatbot and ultimately in the engineering infrastructure that surrounds it? So as a high-level plan, we wanted to scale recognition using multiple data science models. These were models that we ourselves, as in the data science team, had created, but there's also excellent work that is done outside of Autodesk and in the general like chatbot or conversation AI community. Then we wanted to decouple our dialogue design from application orchestration. And that is more of an engineering a specific goal, but that was important for us to bring in a level of flexibility and maintainability to our existing architecture. From a conversational point of view, we wanted to continue supporting our customers, but we also wanted to reach them on different interfaces and different environments. So before this, customers were expected to come to Ava, so they would have to visit the web page specifically, but we wanted to create widgets and modular interactions that other destinations at Autodesk could be where customers could reach us and interact with us. And on a technical level, we wanted to build for reuse by other digital help teams. This, I mean, I think the roadmap this is just an example of some of the things that we did. The key points here were to try and focus on reusability. So that's why we ended up using React, because there was a focus internally on modularizing front ends using React and building for reusability. I already spoke a bit about separating out the application orchestration from conversation. So this was really important for us because at that point, like I mentioned, we had a single monolithic workspace, and we wanted to separate that out so we could serve multiple use cases more efficiently. The expanding presence thing is, I think, more specific to Autodesk, but we wanted to support existing use cases. For example, the download use case that I mentioned earlier. But in new destinations like the Autodesk account, where customers were already experiencing certain issues with downloads. And like I mentioned, observability, we wanted to improve that, not just for the conversations that we were having, but the engineering infrastructure that supported those conversations. So this is the platform that we ended up building, and on a high level, the capabilities I've already mentioned. So the customer input along with behavioral data was used as the natural language input. Orchestration layer is where we aggregated the different data science models, and then we created a next best action layer, which essentially serves as a business logic engine. And on a high level, these are the 4 types of solutions that a customer can get. They could get a self-service widget, they could get a conversational workflow, they could get article recommendations, or an option to escalate using a reusable component known as the contact app. I think this is, I guess, like a credibility slide. This is an extremely detailed architecture diagram. I won't go into the details, but we ended up using GraphQL so that it would be easier for us to I guess, build an orchestration layer that services different models without the end developer knowing the details about how they're implemented or how they should be called. The other thing to mention is we are using Snowplow for our event instrumentation, and we've collected a large amount of data now on the different behaviors that customers show when they interact with Ava, and we want to use that to power a feature store so we can provide personalization in real time. So in terms of Rasa itself, this is the architecture that we are looking at. Right now, it is, I would say, in a beta use case, this is not something that we've exposed to all of our customers. And we are taking a phased approach to that, mostly because we have like this existing architecture which already works. And we want to make sure that we shift slowly from it so that we don't break anything and it's not visible to customers. So in terms of UI updates, like I mentioned, we wanted to encourage customers to tell us more and be more descriptive. So we expanded the input bar into an input box. But we also wanted to make sure that transactional use cases are still available to customers. So we made those available as quick links, and clicking on one of those can directly get them into that specific workflow. We wanted to make sure that customers retain agency on the different solutions that they're provided, and also that they're able to escalate at any point. So what we do is we aggregate a set of solutions, and that's why the layer is called a next best action layer. We provide a set of actions that we think are the best solution. So for example, here, downloading is the best solution according to us, and it's also a workflow that can immediately get the customer to a solution. So it is prioritized over articles and escalation or other support options. So how are we doing on the goals that we had set out? So in terms of customer effort reduction, this is a screenshot of the Autodesk account, and there's a specific URL in there where if you are having issues with downloading a product, you can click on it, and the account assistant, which is another, I guess, white label version of the Ava widget, shows up. So that we've seen had contributed to about 5% improvements in the score. A factor in that was also localization itself and collaboration with the account team. it also led to benefiting newly work from home users. And this is, something that came up due to the COVID pandemic. And they needed quicker access to home use licenses. And we were able to do that with our newer, more flexible architecture. In terms of customer effort reduction, and also I think additional benefits that the architecture and like using Rasa has provided us is that we were able to put together a different interface almost. So we created a wizard, and this is where like our React front end comes in, and the fact that we now decoupled the orchestration with the conversation itself. So we were able to create some improvements in an existing workflow by automating that workflow itself. In terms of early results on the case creation front, we've seen some positive impact, specifically in like education support. So the blue line is where Ava was added, and as you can see, it's trending downwards. This was late last year, and it's something that we always keep an eye on. At that time, we had a traffic experiment going on, and we've now expanded that to allow more traffic to modular Ava. So in terms of qualitative metrics, we also have a few models that actually monitor our surveys and forums to see if there are mentions or feedback related to how Ava is doing. This not only helps us understand if there is feedback specific to Ava, but we often also get feedback about different Autodesk processes. So that is another way we are currently using this architecture to better understand what our customers are asking. And all of that understanding ultimately then goes back into improving conversations that we have with the customers. So I won't go through this slide itself, but as you can imagine, it's an iterative process. We had qualitative research done on the new interface. So there are certain learnings that we have, and I've listed them as action items, and those are the things that we'll be looking at next. In terms of other like new interesting use cases that have opened up after like we moved to a more flexible Rasa-driven architecture is a conversational advertising or demand generation use case. And this is something that we are really excited about because it's an opportunity to provide more personalized conversations and product discovery. The reasons I think to use Rasa are kind of listed over here. Like we want to focus on scalability, maintainability, and observability. Using Rasa allows us as an engineering team a lot more control over the infrastructure that surrounds it. So for example, like CI/CD and that being kind of baked in. In terms of new use cases, we are looking at demand generation, as I mentioned, but we are also looking at in-product help and other improvements to the agent workflow. And ultimately, by collecting all of that data that I mentioned earlier, we want to focus on personalization and data-driven experimentation and use natural language processing for basically powering that platform so that we can continue to help our customers better. So yeah, that's it from me.